It is Bank Holiday Monday and me and the dog are off out, and what we're going to do this morning is take a closer look at some trees I think I know. Fantastic day. The 3 previous days we've had very high winds, dangerously high winds, because I was in the woods looking at trees and decided I better get out pretty smartish before I get a big trunk on my head. There's lots of, I don't know whether you can see sheep wool down here. I might just pick a bit up and that'll be something else I have to think about. We are in fairly traditional English countryside. This is the white poplar or silver poplar, Poplar albus, and it gets its name from the backside of the leaves, which is a silvery colour and which shimmer in the wind, so giving the tree a sort of sparkling effect. You can see there's a few planted down here with a beech tree sticking out in between them. And it's related to the willow tree. Here, got a willow growing right next to it. It's got a few uses. They use the wood. They use the wood to make shields because it's a very light wood, yet it's reasonably strong. It's also used to make pallets and to make plywood. And because it's fast growing, it's also used as a fuel. And that's probably why it's planted here, because we're right next to a busy road, so it was probably planted to cut the noise down as quickly as possible. If we just look at the leaves, the green on one side and white on the other. I find it a very good wood for making hearthboards out of. The same as willow, it's got the same characteristics as willow. And there are different types of poplar, but the Poplar alba, I don't know whether we're going to see it in here. We are just starting to form. You get them little diamonds in the trunk, in the wood. The wood on this tree is a fairly light grey. Quick to grow and quick to die. But it is a useful tree. You're not going to see this too well in the dimness of the wood, but this is the yew tree, Taxus baccata. Taxus, I remember for toxic, because it is poisonous, although the wood is used to make, or was used, to make longbows and tool handles. It's one of the oldest or longest living native species to the UK. So that means largish specimens could be well over 500 years old. It's got a very decorative wood. As well as it being hard, it can have shades of purple in it. I must struggle with the longbows because it's a very knotty tree. It's a conifer, but it doesn't have cones. It has, or the female tree has red berries, not out at this time of year. But it is an evergreen. And it has needle-like leaves. In fact, there's a very young version here, so I would like to think this has 500 years ahead of it, but the way we're decimating the planet, I don't think that's likely. It's not well placed for getting a good view of the colour of it, but you can see the bark is very coniferous bark. Next to the ash, but in the shade, is the sycamore, which is a member of the Acer family. And again, I'll get some previous footage of this because it's not a particularly good example. Behind and above it, there's a ash tree up in the sunlight. So this is a good tree for carving. Might be a good tree to carve a spoon out of. It's a particularly close grained tree. And it doesn't taint food. So it'd be good to make a spoon or a bowl out of. It tolerates pollution very well. So you can see these in sort of polluted air cities, and the bark peels off, comes off in like scales when they get older. The young bark is smooth, but the old bark is very scaly, orangey grey in colour. It's not to be confused with the maple, although it's be very closely related. All acers, I think. And these are the leaves of the sycamore and the flowers ready for those propeller wing seed pods a bit later in the year, although on some trees they are developing now quite advanced. But let's just have a look at the bark, because the bark of the mature sycamore is this grey but sort of light brown beigey, and it peels off in scales, the bark. Only in the more mature trees though, so this is quite a mature tree. There you can see a little sucker coming up. Now let's go and Contrast that with the oak tree. There's the distinct oak leaves. There's lots of different types of oak leaves, but they are all that general shape. Some are more rounded, some are more jagged, some are bigger, some are smaller, but they're that general shape. And you can see it's sort of similar, but you don't get that scaling and peeling that you do on the sycamore. This one is the English oak with the leaves coming out of the stem. And you can see them oak apples on it developing, which are the result of a parasite. But they in fact have the uses because they're collected and used with gum arabic and oxide of iron to make ink. It's not a particularly old tree this, but the trunk is starting to have that gnarled effect on it. It's a very solid wood, a very rot resistant wood. So it's used in ships, casks, and it makes very good firewood as well. Not that you would want to chop oak trees down just to turn them into firewood. The acorns will be later in the year. The oak has catkins. Can't see any on here. And then later in the year we'll get the acorn, and they have made flour out of acorns, but you have to mix it with regular flour as well, because otherwise it just doesn't form that dough. This oak has leaves on short stalks, so this isn't the English oak. This is the Sessile oak. You can just see them short stalks that the leaves are on. And unlike the English oak, this will have its acorns right close to the branch, whereas the English oak doesn't have the leaves on short stalks, but does have the acorns on short stalks. It's a fairly young tree, this one. A few ash behind it. What we're looking at here is the ash tree, Fraxinus excelsior. If I'm not mistaken, another typically British tree. And although they do drop the branches quite readily, they are another long-lived tree. Quite a large tree, can grow to be quite large. I'll put some shots in of that I got when it was windy, a bit dangerous in the wood. Believe it or not, this is an ash tree. And I don't know what the video looks like, but it will not do the girth of this ash tree justice in the video, I don't think. And it looks like the bark of an oak because it's so large, this ash tree. Generally, youngish ash trees are smooth like this. This is a sucker coming out the side of the ash tree. But that's the main branch there. And as you can see, it's a tremendous ash tree. And I'm stood in a very dangerous position here because it's blowing a gale and I'm virtually under this ash tree, and if one of those big limbs fell on me, there's not much I would know about. So this is our sort of tools wood tree, and although there's not much straightness in this one, but it would make a decent bow, because ash is a bit like natural laminated wood. Now behind the ash, in the dip in there where there's a big bog, is a lot of willow in the centre there. It's willow, which likes the damp. Now I've just previously walked up here, and we're talking about windy weather and branches falling and widowmakers and getting out of the woods before a branch falls down, and I just actually came out of the woods, and what have we got? Well, branches falling down. And if that had clocked you on the head, it's ash, and ash does have a tendency of going with little warning. When you're sawing down ash trees, they do have a tendency just to snap off fairly straight. So that big bit up there could snap off and could be ended up on somebody's head. Anyway, it looks like we've got rain coming in now. So this is the second full day of this storm. And we've lost a lot of leaves off the trees. There'll be a lot of birds lost their nests. Right, so I've been out long enough. I'm getting back now. I'm keeping it down to 5 trees on this occasion. I think 5 is enough. It's I could do another 5, but that would probably be my limit. Yeah, so I've got a bit more research to do, but I think we'll cover 5 more in the not too distant future. But it's a good excuse and to get out. Well, I don't need an excuse to get out, I've got a dog, but it does concentrate you when you're out, and learning shouldn't be hard, learning should be easy, because learning should be what you want to do. And so it's a good thing to do, is to look at the trees. There's a lot of trees I don't know, but it's like anything, once you learn a bit, the rest comes fairly easy, because you know what you're looking for to identify it. The leaf structures, the stem structures, the bark, the fruit, the flowers, the habitat. And once you start looking and start examining, you remember more, so the learning becomes easier. You've got those slots in your brain, if you like. Glorious day. Makes up for those 3 days we had virtually blowing gales for 3 days. Right, that's it then. 5 trees, enough for now, and I'll catch you in a week or so.